Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pierce. This is a very quick video to give you an insight into one of the world's quickest, most 180-degree turnarounds that you'll ever see. You can't get any more 180 than 180, but my goodness. Okay, Tim Pool, the guy that's been mentioned in an indictment by the Department of Justice for being in cahoots with Tenet Media that is being funded by the Russians. Okay, so here's a potentially an unwitting or witting grifter or agent or whatever you want to see him, who has a YouTube following of about 1.4 million. He has Rumble following and he has a huge Twitter following. Okay, so this was one of the videos that I've played this to you like 3 or 4 times now. I'm going to play this to give you a sense of the turnaround we have seen, and we'll have a little discussion about that.
Know it. But I don't know that it matters anymore. This is psychotic. Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine.
So remember what I said earlier. He is now reading bullet points where, that's my supposition, where he then expands on each bullet point. But it's like, Ukraine is the greatest enemy. Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. So those are his bullet points. And then he's getting angry. Is that anger real? I mean, it looks pretty visceral and real. But he seems to be genuinely shouting about and banging a table over the idea that Ukraine is the enemy.
They are expanding this war. Now, don't get me wrong. I know.
Bullet point.
You've got criminal elements of the U.S. government pushing them and guiding them and telling them what to do.
Looks down.
Ukraine is now accused, a German warrant issued for blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, triggering this conflict.
No, it didn't. It was after the conflict started.
Ukraine is the greatest threat to this nation and to the world.
Greatest threat to the nation.
We should rescind all funding and financing, pull out all military support, and we should apologize to Russia. Know it.
So that's 6 bullet points, as far as I can work out, including apologizing to Russia, Ukraine are evil, Ukraine are this and that, right? He's then been called out today. He's been absolutely in a firing line on social media and in the media in general. So this guy has been done. I presume his following, I don't know enough about his following and what they're saying, but I'd be interested to know how they are reacting to this. Are they realizing that they've been duped and that Russian money has found its way to duping them via their favorite influencer, that they are being influenced in a more nefarious way? Or are they still on the side of Russia and thinking that those positions are still justifiable? Okay. So then what's happened, if you now go, that video was deleted, you can't find it. I think it's been deleted by Tim Pool himself, but you know, it's all over the internet. Then you get this. So Tim Pool, Ukrainian flag, now Israeli flag up there, but Ukrainian flag in his bio. Host of Timcast, host of Culture War podcast. Okay. And then we listen to what he has to say about this, and it is one hell of a turnaround. I liked it. I didn't know whether I should like it, but you know what? I like the sentiment, but I do question where you're coming from. Okay. Upon reflection, I now understand that Ukraine is our greatest ally. So I just had a little think about it, and I was banging the table and I was shouting. I've just had a little bit of reflection, and it turns out that they're not only just evil, the greatest evil in the world and the biggest threat to the US. Actually, they're our greatest ally. As the breadbasket of Europe and a peace-loving people, I'm fairly sure you weren't just saying that before, we cannot allow the fascist Russians, oh, hello, that's a bit of a change there, to continue the crimes against humanity. We must redouble our efforts to provide the additional $200 billion at once. What? I'm not even sure what the additional $200 billion at once is. So I don't know whether this is, I mean, I presume this is genuine, and he genuinely is saying this as in this isn't like ironic or sarcasm. Jake Bros says, you now understand this because you want to keep the millions the Russians have given you and you want to stay out of prison. Not going to happen. You might as well flee the country now and go get asylum in Russia, you rat. And we can start by confiscating the money Russia gave you, says Ukrainian battle mat, etc., etc. Okay. Now, Tim Pool, in one of these places, or potentially both, but at least one of these places, is outright lying. Okay? There is no way you can go from banging the table and believing that to having a Ukrainian flag in your bio and saying that they're the greatest ally. So somewhere you're lying. Now, you're either lying because you're being paid to lie, or you're lying because you're afraid that that money's going to get taken away. I would like to think you were paid to lie, and now you're kind of freed from that burden. You can say what you really believe. That's the way I'd like to read it. But what is definitely on show here is that ideology is not what drives what he says. In other words, his genuine beliefs. I think possibly both of these instances are not entirely genuine. In other words, Tim Pool is not genuine. Like, I just can't foresee myself ever being in a position where I would say things like this just because someone was paying me. It's not in my DNA. I couldn't sit there. I'm happy enough not being a millionaire, thank you very much, and holding to my integrity. Now, I don't know if someone just came up and offered me that, whether I couldn't do that in all conscience. I just couldn't. Anyway, this is about him though. Like, just there is something that's not genuine about either of these, but I prefer him to be publicly and overtly in support of Ukraine, even if he's unsure of that position, and maybe he'll grow into it. Maybe he'll start understanding. I wonder as well, like, who's been talking upon reflection. I wonder, because I often think about this with regard to people who don't have very good views of Ukraine, but mainly based on being sunk in an information quagmire, so that they don't get a chance to be properly educated. Someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'd love her to sit down for, like, be forced to sit down for like a 6 hour, like 1 hour Timothy Snyder lectures, where he just sits with her and educates her in a nice way that she understands and she gets, and gives her the truth on Ukraine and the history of Ukraine and where Russia's at. Like, so I've often thought about, surely one of the best things that the US can be doing behind the scenes is with kind of education, like sending out your operatives, whether it be, I don't know, CIA or whatever, and you actually ring on people like Tim Pool's doorbell and say, look, I know your position on Russia is this, but look, we are going to sit down with you and we're going to talk to you and make sure you fully understand everything that's going on. And if after that point you're going to absolutely slag off Ukraine, then we know that is coming from a position of just being paid to say that, because now you have all the information and you're still saying that, knowing that it's false. Okay, but I think there's a case for just educating a lot of people who are in the wrong. Elon Musk is a great example. I think much more important than say Tim Pool or Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think Elon Musk needs to be educated. He is in an information bubble and he can't get himself out of it. He's spiraling into this place where all the people he is deriving information from, Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Tenet Media, they are all really advocating for Russia and against Ukraine. Now, if you can burst out of that through education, then that's great. So I wonder if the CIA could do things like that. How, like, this reflection is interesting. I'd love to be a fly on the wall at his place for the last 24 hours. To see what's happened and who he's spoken to and how much pressure's been put on him, and whether this is kind of completely freely from his point of view, or whether the American, I don't know, American organizations, whether that be CIA, State Department, whatever it is, have been having a word with him, etc., etc., or whether this is just like pressure, financial pressure, it's all crumbling around him. But then, you know, to not double down on those beliefs shows you that they weren't genuine. He's grifting somewhere here. Just quite an incredible turnaround. Let me know what you guys think. and where he's coming from and why you think he's saying what he is. The end result is this is like good. It's better that he's saying this to his audience, and as long as this is reflected in his any future commentary on the geopolitical situation, then this is good, and hopefully some of his followers can have a similar turnaround. I don't know. Hope springs eternal. Anyway, that's. I just thought I had to share that with you because I think it blows my mind that we've seen such a turnaround as this. Take care. Speak soon.